Everybody, welcome to Mystics MMOs. I am your host, Mystic Raven. Okay, this isn't a game video. I wanted to do a cost perspective on just kind of small application of what I'm doing building my prospectus. Now, a prospectus is a very detailed documentation for potential investors, whether or not it is a good idea to, put capital into a company for revenue or in the pursuit of gaining revenue, right? So, in this video, I'm going to take a look at the gaming industry, and we're going to take a look at the cost of living and the adjusted values to the cost of living versus production for a lead developer, for example. Just an example here. So what I have done here, and I want to kind of go over details because a lot of people are like, oh, it's just, it shouldn't be that hard. Well, it's a lot more to everything when we're taking a look at, cost. Everything bottom line is about the dollar, right? All right, so we're going to take a couple of companies that we know, for example. So we're going to have city, the location of said company's corporate headquarters. We're going to have the state of the location. We're going to have the adjusted cost of living. Very important to understand. The COL is the cost of living. What it costs on the average to live there, to live in that location, that city. What the difference is, right, between the city's estimated cost of living and the percentage gain or loss for each company based on location. I'm going to take this number and I'm going to port that over to a position. So I'm going to give you guys the heads up. So first off, we're going to start with EA, Electronic Arts. EA's corporate headquarters is located in Redwood, California. Now, the cost of living in Redwood, California is $95,000 on the average. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's pretty high. It's but it costs. That's why it's called cost of living. It costs an exceeding amount to live there. So on the average, we see a $95,000 cost of living expenditure. Okay, now the difference, right, between here, we got a $24,000 difference. Bethesda's percentage cost is 33% higher. They have a 33% higher cost due to the area in which they run their business. It's 33% higher because of the cost of living. All right. So the cost difference to them, oh no, so that's Bethesda. That's Bethesda. I need to go down here. I'm getting lost in my own thing. All right, so 95,000, and the difference between Rockville, 24,000. Difference between Boston, 33,000. The difference between San Diego, California, 53, and the cost difference between New Philadelphia, Ohio, where I live in around close to New Philadelphia, Ohio, 63,000 between this. There's a big difference, right? Correlating difference. So there's nothing here. This is the difference. So if they were here, $24,000 less on the average, 33,000, 53, 63 on average between the cost difference. Okay. Now, Rockville, Bethesda's located in Rockville, $71,000 for the cost of living. Boston, cost of living, $62,000. San Diego, $42,000. New Philly, $32,000. Adjusted average, $60,000. So we have an adjusted average of $60,000. Differences, $63,000. I've already went over this. Percentage gain if on location. If they were in Rockville, Maryland, it would cost them 25% less. They were in Boston, 34% less. San Diego, 55% less. New Philadelphia, 66% less in development cost. All right, for EA. So that's an average of 45% saved versus any other location. Okay, so I think people are kind of getting that. Bethesda. Okay, we know Bethesda. I actually spelled it wrong. The difference, they're actually saving money by not being located in Redwood, California by $24,000. The cost difference would be $9,000 if they were in Boston, $29,000, and then $39,000. Kind of see where it's going at. Percentage gain would actually be a loss of 33. The percentage gain to this. Now, negatives are positives in this application of how much they're saving. So it costs them 33% more. In this application, it costs them 12% less, 40% less, 54% less. Average is 36.15. Turbine. Turbine is located in Boston. Okay, so we can follow it in, and you'll see there's no blank spaces because you can't do a comparison amongst its own city. It would cost them 33%, 33,000 more if they were in Redwood, 9,000 more in Rockville, $20,000 less in San Diego, 30,000 less in New Philadelphia, Ohio. Percentage gain, right? 53, 14. They would save 32% and 48%. So it costs them 53% more, 14% more, 32% less, 48% less on the average of 3.23. Daybreak. Daybreak is located in San Diego, California. So San Diego, California cost difference costs them $53,000 more. $29,000 more in this location, $20,000 more in this location. Can't do a comparison in their own city. And it would cost them $10,000 less in New Philadelphia, Ohio. Average $23,000. Daybreak percentage gain. They lose 126% if they were up here, 69% if they were in this location, 47% in this location. Nothing. They're not losing anything in their own location. They save 23% in New Philadelphia, Ohio. The average loss of the more they're spending on the average of 54.76 more, or saving 54% in comparison to their competitors. So 54% is what they're saving in comparison. The game company I would try to develop is all negative. Save 63,000, 39,000, 30,000, 10,000. On the average, we'd be looking at saving $35,000 on an average per. Percentage gain per. Or how much less in production or in overall cost overhead. 196% more if I was located here, 121% more, 93% more, 31% more, and the average that we're saving in the development is 110% of the average based on cost of living. Okay, I think I'm explaining this right. All right, so now we're going to move over, because now we have the percentage values to the cost of living based on our projection, right? So we're going to take a position, you know, in gaming. Lead developer, pretty expensive, you know, one of your head honchos. The base rate for a lead developer is $111,000 a year salary, right? Now it's important that I kind of went over that first documentation because adjusted costs have to be applied based on what the cost of living. But the base rate is $111,000 regardless. Now, keep in mind this is subjective. You know, companies can make these calls, but companies adjusted COLs, cost of living, once again. So we're going to go over this. Redwood, that's EA. So the cost of living we've established is 45% higher, right, than other places. The adjusted value based on the cost of living would cost a developer living in, let's say, San Diego, $50,000 more to live. So it would cost them, you know, it could cost them up to $50,000 more based on cost of living. If they adjusted that, right, the adjusted value to compensate for the cost of living would be $161,000. The difference paid out of course, correlates with this number. So you can see it's like a check and a balance, $50,000, okay, for the adjusted cost. Bethesda, 36% higher based on location. That is $40,000 that could be adjusted due to the cost of living. That would cost them $151,000 if they adjusted the cost due to the cost of living. Once again, it's subjective. So as you can see, it balances out accordingly. That would cost them $40,000 more. Turbine, Boston. Okay, we have a 3.23. That would cost them $3,585,000 more due to the cost of living, bringing their total cost to adjust the cost of living to $114,000. So it would only cost them $3,585 over the base rate. San Diego is below the average cost of living. The adjusted rate due to the cost of living, meaning the equivalent amount would be less of this. So imagine you're a developer. You're making a lead developer. You're making $111,000 base, right? Right? We see that this is where this average comes from because it's costing them 55 cents, more. Just, less. I mean, 55 cent less or whatever. So we see the average, where the average derives from. So that's where we see this average calculated. $60,000 adjusted, and they'd pay 55 cents more on the development. New Philadelphia is 110% under the correlating cost of living. Now, you'll see this crazy number here, right? 123,000. Well, that comes from this percentage calculation based off of the cost of living. Exceeded deductions is basically deducting the difference due to the base rate. So it would cost us $12,000 because of the cost of living. It would cost $12,000 less than the average because of the cost of living percentage. This would bring it down to $98,000. So $98,000 is comparable to the base salary of a lead developer in the state of Ohio. But for a company, in comparison to developing in other locations, that saves them a considerable amount of money. How much does it save? Okay. Or how much is the adjusted cost? The cost difference, $12,000 less. Now I don't have the minus sign, but this is less, $12,000 less. So I didn't put the minus sign. It's $12,000 less. See, 12,143, 12,143. It's a check and balance system. Now, over a 4-year development cost, how much does one lead developer cost in these companies? Well, if they do the adjusted cost of living, for EA, that's $646,000. For Bethesda, it's $604,000. For Turbine, that's $458,000. For Daybreak, that's $444,000. And for my company, that's $395,000. Based on location, how much it's costing for a 4-year development cost based on the adjusted values of base rate salary for lead developers and how much it would cost them to adjust the cost of living if it were done. So I kind of wanted to go over this and explain to people there's a lot to location and development and what we look at in companies and where they're located, where they're developing these products and the type of money that we're talking about. We're talking about a lot of money. So I just kind of wanted to go over it and putting it in somewhat perspective. So you got blood for your sword yesterday. Very OP. Gosh, Sensei, you're a genius. Well, I don't know. I guess in some ways, but I guess I know how to do this. I've been doing this for a long time. But anyways, just putting in a perspective and kind of giving people, why are you trying to start a business, Mystic? Why? Well, for investors, this is relative. This is the type of numbers we're talking about based on cost of living and location for development. And you need to know these type of things. You have to take a comparable market, right? You have to take what's already established to get these numbers and understand what the base rate salary is for each position that you're trying to employ, the adjusted cost of living to develop to employ person in said area, what it's going to cost them to live, and how much it's going to either cost the company for development or how much it's going to save in comparison, right? Kind of interesting. So that's why, because I know where I'm from, we're very low on the cost of living in comparison to other locations. And because of that, it's a very, very tempting scenario for potential investors looking to what? Grow an existing company or invest in a new company. So, heads up. Just the way it looks. Just putting it out there, be like location, location, location. All right, guys. Once again, I'm going to let you guys go. Just wanted to kind of, people are like, some people might be like, where are you at? What are you doing? And this is just a tip of the iceberg of what I'm having to deal with. So I hope that helps. I really do. I hope it kind of puts things in perspective of all the number crunching, and I mean number crunching, that Mystic's having to deal with on a much larger scale than this. This is just, like I said, tip of the iceberg. But anyways, man, I want to thank everybody for watching. If anybody has any questions or comments, please post below. I'm Mystic Raven. This is Mystic's MMOs. And as always, thank you and have a nice day.